Tell me about this wood siding here behind you again.
Well, that wood siding is random sawed. Mr. Tom Williams sawed that out of a huge, what are commonly called tulip magnolia. A lot of names for it. Down here they call it yellow poplar. There's a huge tree near Bob's hunting camp up the Tunkhannock, up to northeastern PA, that area, near the Don Williams farm, historic farm. Lewis Williams, his father, his grandfather was a very early pioneer into the area. Came down the Tunkhannock, took possession of that land, got it registered, and it's been in the family ever since. But that's where that came from. I cut that tree down myself. It was roughly 48 inches in diameter, huge, 60 feet to the first limbs.
Well, it looks really good. So what did you do to preserve it?
After the sawing and the final seasoning, partly done in Pennsylvania on my property in Tunkhannock, and partly down here, used crankcase oil is the best, honestly, the best preservative. But producers of paints and preservatives tried to make it illegal. They want to sell paint, highly expensive paint, when crankcase oil you can get it for nothing. There's 2 coats applied on there. You see anything wrong with the color?
Not at all.
It blends in. This is coated with the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
This is the historic flooring out of a big old cotton mill in Montezuma. Became a skating rink, and the building more or less deteriorated and started to cave in. Well, the owner gave me any of these beams that I wanted to salvage, and they're 3 inches in thickness, and they're roughly 12 inches, 11 7/8 or something like that. Took them out by hand, brought them up here, piled them, took care of them, and when I built this addition, I used it in my log front. It's only fake log on the frontal area. The rest of it is flake board, like my tool storage. That coated is a very good construction and makes half decent siding. You can put that on the interior of a wall and stain it and coat it, and it's attractive and very durable. I had another building here that was struck by lightning. I was up in Pennsylvania. I was about to fly down, but there was nothing I could do. A friend and his sons helped me get rid of the debris, which was ample. It's a shame. But here on my property, I have pecan persimmon, which is a very historic food source for Native American. I have two trees that are producing good persimmons. They're delicious.
Are they? Did they fruit this year? You got some persimmons that are coming on?
Yes, there may be some that have fallen that are deliciously sweet,
mm-hmm.
and they have ample seeds in them.
Mm-hmm.
There are many hybrids and related persimmons that's brought from foreign countries. There was persimmons developed in Japan. They're wonderful big fruit, 1 3/4 inches through them by 2 inches in length, peach shaped. When they're ripe, they're kind of a brilliant orange color. When they're not ripe, they're bitter and they'll pucker you up like.
Oh, I know.
You can't.
It's like putting alum in your mouth.
Yes, you've experienced that.
my mom and dad had a beautiful persimmon tree on their property.
Oh yes,
in Ohio, and it was there for a long time. My brother, it finally got old, and I don't know how old it was when I was a kid, but it was a 2-trunk tree.
Boy. And
each trunk was about this big around.
I have one approaching 12 inches in diameter at the stump right up here. There's another one right up here. It's around 6 or 8.
Mm-hmm.
They were a wonderful food source. They would take the seeds out of them and dry them on a bark tray. Wonderful winter food, very, very rich in high in sugar content,
Yeah.
and very nourishing.
Well, I used to pick green persimmons, and I would take some of my schoolmates up the hill out behind the house there, and I'd say, "Boy, you ever have a persimmon? They're really good. You ever?" And they go, "Yeah, I've heard persimmons are really good." And I'd give them a green persimmon and watch them bite into it. Watch their faces go, "Ooh," and spit.
Almost immediate effect is, "Why did you do this to me?" It'll pucker you up like
it's akin to eating a really hot pepper, except for it's just bitter. It's just like I said, like putting alum in your mouth or something.
Well, there's an expression has evolved down here. Worse than a green persimmon.
Worse than a green persimmon. There's not much. There wouldn't be much worse than a green persimmon,
But
I'll tell you.
a week or 10 days, especially when they fall off on the ground,
Yeah.
they are delicious.
Oh yeah, I know. They're honey sweet.
But you got to be careful or you swallow the seeds.
Are the seeds bad for you?
Well, there's a joke. A very pregnant lady, somebody look at her and say, "She been in the persimmons."
Oh yeah.
She swallowed a persimmon seed
Uh-huh.
or a watermelon seed.
Yeah.
That's more common.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good humor and some of it a little disgusting.
Yeah. Go back to Tunkhannock. Who were some of what were some of the industries in Tunkhannock when you were a kid?
One of the main, most dependent and industries that employed quite a number of people was the IXL tannery. I think that changed a couple times in its history. I can't relate exactly, but I watched it burn down, unfortunately. And then there was the witch hazel plant, one of 4 worldwide, well, not worldwide, United States, they're all in United States. The knowledge of the value of the witch hazel, which is still used today as emollients, and barbers used to use witch hazel to wash your face after a shave.
A skin bracer.
Yes, and then there was another industry, the Kittredge soap plant. They made some of the first shaved soaps, and of a high quality, competent to the Ivory soap. Procter & Gamble's Ivory was one of the purest, best soaps ever made. You could shave that for laundry use or for whatever use. Bathing. I have cleaned my teeth with a toothbrush and Ivory soap. Many years ago, I wrote to Procter & Gamble and suggested that they do some experimentation and flavor, change it, make it a little less objectionable flavor and more palatable, and make a dentifrice out of it. I got a thank you letter back. Oh, this would involve problems with the Food and Drug Administration, etc., and we won't go into that. But they have tenfold, and they never even, a simple thank you, that's all. But Procter & Gamble is a good product, but Kittredge soap plant was notable. It was run by a man by the name of William Kittredge, fine man. The IXL tannery was really managed by a Mr. Fitch, fine man, and timbering, supplying the mining industry with props, ties, lagging for protecting the cutting through in the shafts and slopes in the anthracite industry was big industry. The raising of cattle, mostly dairy, was one of the most dependable.
Going back to the tanning industry, how much do you know about the actual tanning process?
Quite a bit. The hides used to come in railroad cars, bundled, some tied, just lapped and bundled and stuck in there. And stink, you cannot believe the odor of one of those cars opened up you had to back away for a while. You could cut the stench with a knife, hides from the meat packing plants. And originally there were buffalo hides. We know this, that came there to be tanned. They were always de-haired and made into shoe leather and other leather things, pouches, military use, holsters, many, many products. But the hides were roughly hosed down, washed a little bit, and early as they could, they put them into a vat of tannic acid with an agitating system running on cams where each hide would oscillate up and down to keep the chemical action going on. And so many days in that, they were taken out and refleshed, and a beamer was a tool for scraping hides. And they used a beam, a horizontal member that you put the hide over, flesh side up, hair side down, and scraped them. And really did a wonderful job. And the finished hides were beautiful.
The tannic acid came from what, boiling?
One of the best sources of tannic acid was the hemlock bark. I could have shown you, there's still traces of them there, hemlock trees that were 4 feet in diameter and 60 feet to the bottom limbs. And only the Great Spirit knows the age. They were peeled and left to lie and rot in the forest. Well, the logs shipping them out was problematic, but they could saw them down with a 6-foot crosscut saw, which I have done, and peel them. I found a beautiful bark spud. I gave, let me see, I gave Tom Williams one, a good one. And the Native American